Good morning. Welcome back to our next First Chapter Friday. This week we are going to be reading the book Rotten by Michael Northrop. As you can see on the cover, it is about a Rottweiler. As you know, I have two Rottweilers, so when I saw this at the book fair a couple of years ago, I could not resist getting it. Look at that baby boy. So let me go ahead and read the back for you. A troubled teen, a rescued Rottweiler, and an unlikely friendship. Jimmer J.D. Dobbs is back in town after spending the summer upstate. No one believes his story about visiting his aunt, and it's pretty clear that he has something to hide. It's also pretty clear that his mom made a new friend while he was away, a rescued Rottweiler that J.D. immediately renames Johnny Rotten. Yes, after that guy in the Sex Pistols. Both tough but damaged, J.D. and Johnny slowly learn to trust each other, but their newfound bond is threatened by a treacherous friend and one snap of Johnny's powerful jaws. As the secrets J.D. has tried so hard to keep under wraps start to unravel, he suddenly has something much bigger to worry about: saving his dog. Chapter 1. The bus headed down from upstate says Peter Pan on the side. It might as well say losers. Everyone on here is some combination of bad adjectives: poor, old, sick, bloated, and worse. I've pegged one as homicidal and another as suicidal. Luckily, they're not sitting next to each other. No one on here is getting the better of things. No one owns a car or can afford a train ticket. I fit right in, a 16-year-old being shipped across the state in the middle of the night with absolutely no say in the matter. I'm staring out the window at headlights, taillights, and streetlights, and I've got double stop signs up. My earbuds are in, and the old school punk music is at maximum volume, and I've got a book on my lap so I can pretend to read, if necessary. It's not. The old guy next to me hasn't said a word, and I think he might have wet himself. We finally pull into the station in Brantley. This is the last stop for me. I slide by the old dude, maintaining as much airspace as possible. The first word I say to him is, "Sorry." Then I stand in the aisle and wait as the line shuffles slowly towards the door. Most of these people are continuing on to an actual city. They just want to buy some snacks and use a real bathroom, maybe get some fresh air. I don't mind the wait. I'm almost home. I've been counting the days for months, but now I feel more nervous than anything. The air is warmer out in the parking lot, and I start to come around a little. The compartment doors are open along the side of the bus, and I paw through the luggage until I find my bag. Just to be sure, I give it a quarter turn so I can see the JD and marker on the front. My name is Jimmer Dobbs, but I go by JD if I can help it. The bag is pretty heavy, but I lift it clear without too much trouble. I take a look around the parking lot, scanning for my mom's Honda, but I don't see it. I pull out my phone and check for a text or a call. There's nothing, so I head inside the station. I claim one of the orange plastic bucket seats in the waiting area. I check my phone and look around. The station is too big for this dried-up town now. Most of the people here are either from the bus I came in on or they work here. I'm kinda hungry, but there's a line at the vending machines. The people are looking over their shoulders, afraid the bus is going to leave them here. I check my phone again and wait. It's not like I expected a parade or a party, but I thought my mom would at least be here. I called her once I saw the first exit sign to let her know. The trip in from Stanton is like 20 minutes. The people get their Snickers or Twix or barbecue chips and get back on the bus, and the bus does its part and leaves. Maybe I'll call her again, just to check in. I want to go to the vending machines, but I'm not sure about leaving my bag here, and it feels lame to take it with me. I take it anyway. I'm stranded in a bus station. Lameness is unavoidable, and if I didn't want this stuff, I wouldn't have carted it to the edge of the state and back. I hook the strap over my shoulder and start walking toward the machines. I hear one of the doors swoosh open when I'm halfway across the floor. I look over, and it's my mom. I change direction and head towards her. "Hey, baby bird," she says. Mom calls me that sometimes. I wish she wouldn't. "Hi, Mom," I say, smiling for the first time in recent memory. We rarely hug, but which guarantees that this one will be awkward, and it is. "Welcome back," she says. "Whoop-de-doo," I say, spinning my finger in a little circle around the dingy bus station. We're mostly quiet on the drive home. I've been away all summer, and even though she visited a few times, there's almost too much to catch up on. I don't think either of us really knows where to start. "There's a surprise for you at home," she says at one point. She doesn't say why she was late getting to the station, and I don't ask. But this is better. A surprise? I think maybe it's a cake or something. I'm kind of hungry because I never made it to the vending machines. Pretty soon we pass the sign that says "Welcome to Stanton." It's it's only that one line because there's nothing impressive to add. Everything after that is the same as when I left. Pizza place, little bridge, so-called downtown and town green, then the little dip in the road, and our boxy white house coming up on the left. We pull into the driveway, and I brace myself for the pothole at just the right moment. Some things you don't forget. The car comes to a stop, and Mom turns it off and drops the keys in her purse. The engine keeps ticking afterward. That's new. I see Mom listening to it, already calculating how much it'll end up costing us to fix. I bang through the side door with my bag, make the right, and head into the front room to drop my stuff. I know the room well, so I don't bother to switch on the light. Sure enough, I slam my shin into something and go down in a heap. I realize mid-fall that it must be the coffee table. I realize post-fall that Mom must have moved it while I was away. I grab my shin and swear, but my voice is drowned out by the noise suddenly filling the room. It makes even less sense than the table being out of place. I still can't see anything, so for a second I think maybe I'm imagining it, or it's coming from the TV. But the TV is off, and the sound keeps coming. It's a dog, barking its head off. Barking at me. It makes no sense. We don't have a dog. We never have. I look around the dark room, trying to figure out where it is. It sounds close, and I don't want to get mauled, or rabies. I reach up and sort of cover my face so that I'm looking out through my spread fingers. Just as my eyes are beginning to adjust to the dark, the light flips on and I see my mom standing at the edge of the room. "Don't worry," she says. "He's new." It takes me a moment to realize she's talking to the dog. I wake up early like I've had to do all summer, and like I have to do when school starts up in a week from tomorrow. I turn over on my side and kick my leg out from under the sheet. There's a nice breeze coming in through the window screen, and I start to drift back to sleep. But just as I'm going under, I hear something. It's a quick beat of footsteps coming up the stairs. At first, I think it must be Mom, but then I hear the dog's nails on the wood. I turn over and face the door. I can hear the clicks getting closer as he heads down the little hallway. My door is open a crack, and I watch the narrow gap as the sound gets closer and stops. The door isn't open wide enough for the dog to get in, but from what I saw last night, it would be no problem for him to push it open. He's built like a cement truck. After a few seconds, his nose appears in the gap. He pushes it in as far as he can without touching either the door or the frame. He sniffs twice, then pulls his nose back out of sight. More quiet. Man, I think that dog definitely got the wrong impression. Normally, this room would be rank enough to repel anything with a functioning sense of smell. But this morning it's all fresh air and clean laundry. I expect to hear his feet or paws, I guess, padding back down the hallway, but there's no sound at all. I'm starting to wonder if I dreamed the whole thing, and then BAM! He jams his whole head through the door. It swings open at least a foot, giving him enough space to turn and look at me. Holy crap. His head is like a black and brown cinder block. The top of it is all black except for two little brown dots, one over each eye. They sort of make it look like he's thinking bad thoughts. The muzzle is all brown, except for a black stripe on top, which leads down to his black nose and black mouth. His jaws look insanely powerful, like Mom had adopted an alligator. I remind myself of how skittish he was last night, how he went and hid behind Mom. He'd been all big talk in the dark, bark, 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 but as soon as the lights came on and he ran out into the hallway like a two-year-old, looking back at me from behind her legs, with his head held low. He was literally all bark and no bite. So I'm telling myself what my mom told me, that he's just a dog, a rescue dog that's still afraid of people. But looking at his face now, I can't tell what he's thinking. We're just looking at each other. I watch the skin bunch up and shift around his eyes as he watches me. Even his face has muscles. He swipes a thick pink tongue across the side of his upper jaw. It lifts the gummy black skin around his mouth, and for a split second I see the flash of one extra long white tooth. I guess that's what they call a canine tooth. He pulls his head back out of the room and disappears. A moment later, I hear him heading down the hallway. He pauses at the landing and then avalanches down the stairs. I let out a long, slow breath. That was weird. And that was a big frickin' tooth. There's no way I'm going back to sleep now. I throw the sheet off and get up. I open the top drawer of my dresser and look at row after row of clean socks and underwear. It looks like a picture in a catalog, and not a catalog I'd shop from. I pick out my outfit and get dressed. My jeans feel tight like they always do after they've been washed. My black t-shirt feels so crisp. I wonder if it's been replaced with a new one. It's a clean start for my clothes and maybe for that dog. But that's about it. Today is the day I return to my normal scheduled life. Already in progress. Not going great. So I actually read you the first two chapters of the book because the chapters are fairly short. Comment below if you think this is something that you would read. This is definitely a book that I picked up because of the cover. Rottweilers are just so pretty. So let me know if you would read this book. Comment below, and I will see you next week.